Yes, people, welcome to the second episode of the Introducing Me series, the series where I go through my own Instagram page and I react to my own posts and give you a little bit of background information, set up a little bit of a timeline so you get to know me a little bit better. In the last episode, we went through my first ever Instagram post on this page all the way through to 2019, the end of my gap year. If you haven't seen it, go check that out. That is the first upload on this channel. But in that first episode, we broke down just where I started in this whole bodybuilding scene, and we had a couple laughs at my expense. But today we're moving on. We have a lot of ground to cover here in today's episode. This might be a long one. We have everything from 2019 to 2022, and at this time I went to university, lockdown happened, and I started to really take bodybuilding a little bit more seriously. So this might be a very long episode. Whether you're having your meal, you're doing cardio, or you're taking a big fat shirt, get ready. Buckle up. We've got a lot of ground to cover. Let's start where we left off. So, finished my A-levels, lived in Dubai for my gap year, and then I shipped off to Cardiff for university. My brother had moved to Cardiff a few years before me, so I went to go visit one time prior. But other than that, I was on my own moving to the UK. And in this first year of uni, this is this gap in the timeline. This is where there's not much content. I wasn't very active. You can imagine the lifestyle associated with a first year of university, especially in the UK and especially in a place like Cardiff. Let's see if we can find some university content. Here we go. The first documentation of me during my first year on here. So these were the uni days, the days of nights out that start with very cheap vodka in student accommodation flats, followed by a copious amount of VKs in a club, and then end with a slight stinging sensation when you pass urine. This is the days living off Iceland frozen foods and snacking out of the little bakery while you do your food shop. What a time. Now this was a big culture shock to me when I first moved over. You can imagine living the bodybuilding lifestyle in Dubai, all isolated by myself, to moving into a flat with all my best friends with enough freedom to spend my time and money how I see fit. But during my gap year, leading up to me moving to the UK, I knew that this sort of new lifestyle, this adjustment was creeping up. I knew this change was fast approaching, and I prepared myself for it. It was a conscious decision that I made to put bodybuilding on the back burner temporarily, because this was experiences, this was memories, this was friendships that I didn't want to miss out on in pursuit of bodybuilding, especially at this age. And as much as I was sure that I loved bodybuilding, I wanted to be sure that when I flicked the switch, I can be a bodybuilder full-time from that moment on. Like I said, this was planned. I knew what my first year was going to entail, from what my brother was telling me, from what my friends were telling me, and I knew what to expect. And this was a conscious decision I made to take a step away from bodybuilding temporarily, in pursuit of my studies and in pursuit of this new social life that I want to experience. And you can see I was introduced to the art of the night out and picked it up very quickly, seeing as I was learning from the best in the game. I know many countries say this, but genuinely, from my experience, from what I've witnessed with my own eyes, Welsh people can drink. I've witnessed some very impressive feats of alcoholism, both in sheer volume and frequency and intensity of consumption. And I was thrown into the deep end with it all. I mean, the people, my housemates that I lived with throughout university, could have been inducted into the Alcohol of Fame, with the credentials that they had accumulated over their years of drinking. You can see from these posts, compared to this man depicted in this image, I very quickly was adopted into the frat star lifestyle. They called me Chris Frat. I went from being a bodybuilder to the poster boy for some fraternity. Call me Tom Frats. Tom Platts. But yes, bodybuilding was put on the back burner temporarily in pursuit of some life experience during these formative years. And I definitely stand by that decision. I think it was the best thing I could have done at the time. Made some of my best friends, lifelong friends, some of my best memories, and many life lessons learnt throughout my time as this man here on the left. So, no regrets there. Now while we're here, let's break down this image here on the left. This was Halloween of my first year of university. I had knuckle tattoos, Liberty Gardens, which was my accommodation at the time, tattooed across my forearms, blue VKs across my chest, which was sort of my favorite flavor, my go-to in a club. Little Christian cross there, classic. A couple teardrops I can't remember what it said on my knuckles. Probably Thug Life or some stupid shit. But this is a result of putting a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds in a flat together, giving them cheap Tesco, alcohol, and a marker pen. These times here, as much as I did indulge in the recreational use of intoxicants, I did still train consistently. I never let my foot off of the gas in terms of going to the gym. In these times, I obviously had my new university schedule, had my new social life, and a bunch of new priorities, but still made sure that I made it to the gym. And when I was switched on, I was switched on. When nothing was interfering with my lifestyle, I was able to train and eat appropriately, making the best possible decisions I could at the time. And I was still very much in pursuit of the best information and all the knowledge I could get in terms of exercise mechanics, nutrition, training techniques, health, lifestyle. And I still had this goal of being a bodybuilder. It's just some other priorities started to creep up on that list over the top of my physique development goals. I knew that it was still something that I wanted to pursue, so I never let my foot off the gas in terms of training, in terms of learning. I just knew some other things were going to get in the way. I'd miss a session every now and then for being hungover. We'd be eating out, ordering food. Obviously, the impact that alcohol has on your nutrition, and then also the kebabs and the McDonald's and shit at 3, 4 a.m. after leaving a club. Not great decisions, but all fun and games. You know the saying, when in Rome, you get shithoused with your mates. And as my first year came to a close and I thought, let's get back in this 2019 lifestyle that I was in, being a full-time bodybuilder, pursuing my goals, you can tell by the mask here on my face, is when lockdown hit. And in Wales, lockdown was a shit show. Gyms immediately closed. They would open for small stints, a couple days at a time. But with gyms closing, it took my bodybuilding goals from being very difficult to manage around my university lifestyle to being impossible to pursue at all. And this was very, very stressful for me at first because I'm someone who's very obsessive about my bodybuilding goals. It's something I care about more than anything in the world, and I always have. My nutrition, my training, my recovery was always at the front of my mind. It's always something I wanted to make the absolute best decisions possible. And then I was fighting a losing battle against not having a gym, the lifestyle changes associated with lockdown, even just trying to get my hands on the right foods. It was a very stressful time. And this was when I was at another crossroads where I had to make a big decision. Was I going to try and keep making progress using bands, light dumbbells, calisthenics, and trying to make do with what I had? Or I had the other option where I just let go for a little bit, pull myself out of it, drop all that anxiety surrounding my inability to pursue my goals, which is sort of what I ended up doing. I sort of found a little middle ground there, but I just didn't want to hold myself to the standard that I need to become a bodybuilder because I was fighting against all the elements. Nothing in my life was allowing me to pursue these goals, and I was beating myself up about not being able to achieve the things that I wanted to. And then lockdown got serious in Wales, where we realized it wasn't going to be a couple weeks, it wasn't going to be a couple months. We were in for the long haul. So I sort of got comfortable. Luckily for me, I had my brother there in Wales. I had my best friends there in Wales. And funnily enough, my dad was there for a while. He got stuck there because they banned all traveling back to Dubai. This was before the testing, before the vaccine. So it was just sort of all borders shut. Everyone stay indoors. These were the days where I was trying to work out in a park, trying to do pull-ups, dips, push-ups outside, and the police would come up and chase me away and shoo me back to my flat because we weren't allowed to be outside. So at the time, I made sure that I still trained consistently just in terms of health, just to maintain my physique so that when gyms open up, I was in a good position to start up again. It was all calisthenics, high-intensity interval training, loads of supersets, just mostly bodyweight stuff, bands. One of my mates had a couple pairs of dumbbells that we would use occasionally. And it was that phase where everyone started downloading Strava, doing 5K runs, joined in on that. And my diet setup was essentially a protein goal and then some sort of calorie goal for whatever phase I was in. But these were very short bursts. And I knew I wasn't going to put on a lot of quality tissue. So I was just sticking around maintenance, trying to stay lean, trying to stay in good shape, making the best decisions that I can day to day. And I was very isolated during this time. And I don't mean like mentally or like psychologically. I mean like physically. Like I was still in my first year flat, stuck there, couldn't move into my new place, wasn't able to travel back to Dubai. So it was just me in my flat. All my housemates were Welsh and they just went off and lived with their families during that bit of lockdown. So I was all by myself. This was during peak Warzone times though, so all the boys were online. We're running up. Oh man, I miss old school Warzone. That was absolutely class. We made do. But this was when I hit my stoner era. See, I was a very anxious teenager. And these times being very isolated, being very introspective, being very to myself in my own head was very stressful for me. But I found a good coping mechanism in recreational use of cannabinoids. And it became a bit of a social thing between me and my two mates that I was stuck in lockdown with. Weren't able to go out, weren't able to see loads of people, but you could stay in and bill up with the boys any time of day. And boy, did we. Me and the boys were Spliff Richard and James Blunt. We were Splifford the Big Red Dog and Cushion Boots. Cushion Zoots. We were Cannabis Lecter. We were assistant to the regional manager, Dwight Zoot. We did get very, very encompassed into the stoner lifestyle for a bit there. If Rolling Spliffs was playing the violin, we were a bunch of 11-year-old Chinese girls, let me tell you. Then when lockdown started to calm down a bit, came the days of house parties. We had a little bit more freedom. And as someone who wasn't really a big fan of drinking, especially after a heavy year in my first year, I went with all the 0-calorie alternatives so that I could mitigate the amount of damage I was doing to my physique while the gyms were still closed, and the nutritional choices I was making, the lifestyle choices I was making. I didn't want to do any more damage than was necessary, essentially. And alcohol would have just pushed that ball a little bit too far for me. Like I said, I was just making the best decisions day to day. I didn't have the luxury of making long-term goals, didn't have the luxury of really making any progress. But I just wanted to make sure that I stayed in good enough shape so that when gyms do open up and I can open the floodgates, I was ready to go. So my lifestyle at the time was essentially Warzone, Bud, and then house parties. I didn't drink a lot, but when I did, we'd get 3 Magnums and a silver pack of Rizlas on the go, and we'd have a blast. It was a very rare occurrence, but it did happen. Like I said, I've never been a big drinker. As much as my friends will say that there's times where we drank very frequently or very heavily, it was never for a very long span. It was because there was a small event, there were a couple of events very close to each other, but then I would take the appropriate amount of time off. But I was also very all or nothing. I'm not this one quick drink in the pub with the boys kind of guy. If we're drinking, I'm sending it to the moon, and I'm behaving in a manner that will tarnish my family name. I'm very all or nothing. So when I'm drinking, I'm drinking. And when I'm not, it's Diet Cokes and Zoots and a vape, maybe a couple rollies in the smoking area. That's it. During these lockdown times, I just wanted to make use of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I was around all of my friends, full reign freedom. This was a lifestyle I was never going to be able to live ever again, so I wanted to make full use of it before I fully committed to bodybuilding and my career that I've always had in the back of my head. It was always ready to pull the trigger. I just knew this wasn't the right time to do it. Then we get into these times where the gyms opened up again post-lockdown, even if it was on and off. This was when the floodgates opened. I had been waiting for this moment. I missed bodybuilding so much, and I still had that goal of becoming a professional bodybuilder. It's just I was fighting a losing battle for the last, 2 years due to my current circumstances. I wasn't able to commit to any long-term goal. I was doing short mini cuts to try to stay in shape, followed by big surpluses trying to put on some tissue. But again, this was very on and off, and lockdown was still around. It wasn't affecting us as much, but the way that it affected how my university changed, and how my schedule changed and my lifestyle changed, we had some adapting to do. And these times I was still heavily smoking, very rarely, occasionally drinking, I guess. But like I said, when I did, it was a full send. But I spent most of my time switched on, in terms of training, in terms of diet, in terms of lifestyle. And I was pursuing that goal of being a professional bodybuilder, even though I was still very heavily taxing my cannabinoid receptors. Let me think of a stoner bodybuilding pun. Kai Green, get it? Jay Cutler, Bill Heath, Rolly Winkler, Chris Bumstead, more like Chris Bun instead. That one we're gonna leave out. Then following these times, we made it back to Dubai. They opened up the borders and I was able to travel back, see my family. And this was another time where I was very isolated in Dubai, away from the whole social aspect, so I was able to take bodybuilding a little bit more seriously. And you can see by the shape of it, we were being productive out there. Always my most productive times as being a bodybuilder here in Dubai. Let's quickly go through this. So this was as bad as it got during lockdown, I reckon. The bleached hair, that was a lockdown decision. Me and my mates, we had a little game going, a couple bets going. Wasn't great. Couldn't get a haircut, so I decided, let's take the attention away from it and bleach it at the hands of my flatmate, one of my close friends, Abby. I'm going to blame her. That was awful. You did a terrible job. But it was all fun and games at the time. Like I said, this was as bad as it got. Then gyms opened up. This was just temporarily. The gyms did close again after this. But I took this opportunity to clean up, get lean a little bit, a tiny bit of a recomp, just get in a better position to start pushing up this gaining phase, because ultimately I just needed to put tissue on, and I hadn't been able to for a very long time. Primed myself to do so. That was how many months? 2 months there? Yep. And then into that little gaining phase still in Cardiff, and then pushing that gaining phase that little bit further in Dubai. And then came these times, the post-lockdown, where I was in a very shitty headspace. Mentally, I was in a very, very bad spot for a couple of reasons. Both the lifestyle, both intrinsic. I think it's just that age as well. You got your frontal lobe coming to the end of its development. You're going to struggle a little bit. And I knew I had a moment of like, it's now or never in terms of bodybuilding. This is a dream that I need to chase or I need to let go of, because I was just sort of dragging it along the whole way through, and I hadn't really got my head down and focused for a long time. And now that I was able to, I had to decide whether it was something I was going to do or not. These are the times where I just quit. I fully quit smoking. I was separated enough from the uni lifestyle where drinking was a very, very rare occurrence. So I was really able to get my head down and focus and actually pursue this bodybuilding thing if I chose to do so. And like I said, I'd been carrying this dream around for so long, and I wouldn't be happy with myself if I didn't give it a shot, if I didn't pursue it. But I knew something had to change. I knew I had to take things to the next level. And what I did was I reached out to the main man, Max, man like Charles Gombosh. Sorry for dropping your whole government. That's crazy. But yeah, this was when I signed up with Max, my coach. And I'm pretty sure this was exactly like 2 years ago when I first signed up with him. Yeah. So this was around like 2 years ago. Shout out to him. A little coach-anniversary. But yeah, still to this day, the best decision I ever made. It gave me a level of accountability. It gave me the opportunity to set very long-term goals and really focus on them and really, really stay dialed in. And it took away all the decision fatigue that I'd been dealing with for the last couple of years. I mean, phases like this where I was running mini cuts and then very short bursts of gaining phases, then shit would get in the way and then I'd have to bounce around again. I had an objective set of eyes that I could trust wholeheartedly with something that I held very dear to myself. My bodybuilding journey, my nutrition, my training, my recovery was something I was a massive control freak over. So handing that control over to a coach that I fully trusted was something I struggled with at first. But as soon as I got on that consult call with Max, I knew he was the man for the job. And like I said, still the best decision I've ever made. The reason I got a coach was for all of those reasons I mentioned previously, but also because I wanted somebody to learn from what it took to be a bodybuilder. In terms of my lifestyle, in terms of the decisions I was making. Because I had been living as a bodybuilder for some time, it's just I needed to fine-tune the things I'd already known, and what better way to learn than from the experience of someone else. And it's actually funny how I came about signing up with Max, because I went through such a long vetting process trying to find the right person for the job. I was so anal about it, and so many people that I just binned off that were like very, very high-level bodybuilders that I thought about signing up with, but it just wasn't that spark, wasn't that click. I didn't have that trust in them. So it took a while, but then one consult call with Max, and we were signed up the next day. Oh, I just yawned, so my eyes are watering. I'm not getting emotional over Max. As much as we can send some soppy messages about our coach-client relationship, it's not that deep. Since day one with Max, I always told him I'm simply a lab rat. Whatever you put in the plan, whatever you tell me to do, I will do that to a T. I trust you entirely to lead me in the right direction. And let's say we make the wrong decision temporarily. I know for a fact you're going to pick up on what that was, and we're going to learn from that together and do better in the future. Where is this vest? I haven't seen that vest in fucking time. These times after I signed up with Max, I made a couple lifestyle changes. I just moved into a new uni house. So I started to really try to nail my diet in terms of tracking my macros down to an absolute T, not missing. I moved to a bodybuilding gym, Peak Physique in Cardiff, if anyone's familiar. A couple of the boys that still train there. What's up? It was more a case of I wanted to be around bodybuilders. I was training in a JD gym and it was tragic. Anyone who's trained in commercial gyms like that knows it's a bit shit trying to be a bodybuilder in there. So I wanted to be around some like-minded individuals, some big fuckers that I could look up to, that I could ask questions. I was very much just a trust the process, stick to the plan kind of guy. Max tried to coin the nickname the Executioner for a short period of time, but we realized when you have the face of an infant, you can't really pull that off. We'll break down all of this in the next episode. And I think for now, just because of how long this video has been going on, we're going to leave it there. We have a bunch to cover here in terms of my natty off-season leading into my prep very nicely, and then post-show and into my current gaining phase. For now, let's give it a little recap. So this was all in the first episode. Go check that out. uni times, lockdown times, post-lockdown times, back in Dubai, back in Cardiff, and then signing up with Max. That's where we're going to leave it at for today. We have a bunch more to cover, so look forward to the episodes to come. This is going to become a series until we've rinsed it all the way through. And I want to make a whole reaction series on this channel. So if you have anything that you want me to react to, that you want me to go through, that you want to hear my opinions on, put that in the comments. Send me a DM. On that note, follow me on the Instagram, rubeneddie.bb. Follow along. Daily updates, daily posts, daily reels on here. And we're going to be posting on this YouTube channel as frequently as possible. So subscribe, like the video, stay tuned, and see you all next time. Peace.